are many good reasons for urgent prayer, but we must consider some of the hindrances that keep poor sinners from this kind of praying. These will be stated in the form of objections. If prayer must be fervent and even loud, what must become of me, who am often so confounded that I cannot utter one word? In God's reckoning, groans are taken as prayer, for he has looked down from the height of his sanctuary to hear the groaning of the prisoner. And when a spirit intercedes, it is with groanings which cannot be uttered. Faith sighs to heaven, and Christ receives sighs into his censer for prayer. Words are but the body, and outside of prayer, while sighs are nearer the heart. I have not so much as a voice. Yes, but there are other voices besides those that are articulate. For example, there is a voice in tears. The Lord has heard the voice of my weeping. A baby has no prayers for the breast, but a mother can interpret his weeping. Even weeping is often more than I can render. Intensity of feeling frequently moves one to tears, but tears are not an indispensable sign of grief. Hezekiah could only chatter and moan. Sorrow does not always travel the same beaten road. Weeping is but an outward casing of sorrow, and there is often the most sorrow where there is the least weeping. All my ways of expressing prayer are imperfect. In God's book, a look towards heaven, or an uplifting of the eyes, is set down as prayer. In the morning I will direct my prayer unto you, and will look up. What is prayer but a pouring out of the soul to God? Faith will find another outlet of one if one is stopped. Feeling breaks out in looks when voice is lacking, just as smoke pours out of the windows when the door is shut. Dying Stephen looked up to heaven by the window of the soul to give notice that a poor friend was on his way, and that was prayer enough. If I were ready to sink into hell, I should wish no more than to send one longing look to heaven. My heart is so hard that I have no praying disposition. Then pray that you may pray. If an overwhelmed heart refuses to come, go and tell Christ, beseeching him to come and fetch the heart to himself. It is Christ's eye directed to hard hearts that melts them. Although this is the lowest degree of prayer, it is of no importance to the essence of sincere praying as long as the soul expresses itself, whether it is words, groans, sighs, looks, or tears. Prayer is an outward pouring of the soul to God, and the very exercise brings along with it the needful affections. What should be done with incoherent utterance? Broken petitions are set down in Scripture as prayer. We see this in Psalms chapter 6 verse 3, chapter 109 verse 4, and chapter 116 verse 3. The cause of this incoherency in prayer are various. Sometimes it arises not from haste or unbelief, but from intensity of emotion. Love and longing have eagle's wings and fly where language would only creep like a snail. It is not every part of a poor petitioner's supplication that belongs to the supplication. Out of fear, the poor man may speak broken words that cannot be understood by the prince. However, nonsense in prayer, when sorrow, blackness, and a dark, overwhelmed spirit dictate the words, is well received by God. Prayer is often in the womb of a sigh. Lord, you have heard the desire of the humble. When others cannot know what a groan means, God knows because his Spirit made the sigh. He first makes prayer as an intercessor, and then hears it as God. But is all my crying in prayer the result of the Spirit? The flesh may come in and join in prayer, and some things may be said in haste and not in faith, as in that prayer. Has God forgotten to be gracious? However, Christ washes sinners in his blood. He rejects those things that are wrong, but he washes their prayers and causes the Father to accept them. Thus we should fervently lay our hearts before God.